Alrighty, everyone. Hello. The time is now 7 p.m. Eastern. Good afternoon to some, good evening to probably some as well, maybe good morning, depending on where people may be tuning in the world. I know we normally get an international crowd for these webinars. My name is Teron Myers here at SHI Macrobiotics. I'm the Director of Operations for those who do not know who I am. And for those who are not too familiar with SHI and maybe more familiar with Denny and his work, SHI being a nonprofit 501c3 organization and mission being able to educate and empower individuals to create lasting health through diet and lifestyle principles, which is why we do have these free webinars as well as a lot of other resources that we typically offer, weekly, throughout the month and annually as well too. So those who are coming for the first time, welcome to our free webinar series. Those who are regulars, welcome back. I'm going to go over this quick disclaimer as I always do. Mostly you can read this for yourself, but just saying that this webinar, you viewing it, acknowledge that this is not personal medical advice. This is not a personal consultation for you. This is just all personal education that's very, very generalized, but informative too, that you can take on your own. And we still advise for people to still have their personal consultations and even any additional advice outside of that as well too, if needed for your own personal health. So the topic for tonight is going to be time-restricted eating for optimal health. As always, this session is going to be about a half an hour where Denny is going to, speak, and then we'll allow for a period of time for Q&A. And then after that, we will go into some really good updates for the upcoming 2023 year. We just advise that if you do have questions, try to hold them toward the end of the presentation when the Q&A starts, unless you know that you may be jumping off a little bit early and you want your question to be answered in the recording that I will be providing, within the next, 24 to 48 hours or so. So yep, we're happy to have everyone here. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Denny. And Denny, you can take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teron. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone. So as Teron said, for those who don't know me, I'm Denny Waxman. So I wanted to start off with something different. Since it's our holiday season, Christmas and Hanukkah are approaching, and at the end of the year, I always do my reflections, evaluation of the year, and goals for the following year. So I wanted to kind of share my personal SHI and also world reflections. So first personal. I believe I have a unique natural healing ability. From my first client in the early 70s, Mona Schwartz, till today, I've had, an amazingly good, sometimes it surprises me, response to my counseling. And I don't know how it happens. You ask me a question and the answer comes, and don't ask me where it comes from. And in 1984, so I was practicing macrobiotics 15 years, and Micho and Aveline were here for a seminar. And it's a time when we had these huge seminars, 600 people. And after the seminar, he did a whole day of counseling at our center on 9th Street. Some people might remember that. And so about 20 of my clients, at the end of the day, he said to me, I don't need to come back to Philly anymore. These people are so balanced, I really couldn't recommend much to them. And I mean, it kind of floored me. I thought, oh my, okay, 15 years of hard work paid off. Then Aveline said to me, you have more recoveries than Michio. Could that really be? So I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, I think that's my uniqueness. But the problem is, one-on-one is slow and it has limitations. I'm only one person. I can only see so many people and for so many years. So in my reflections, I think I need to partner with someone who can take this ability out in a much larger way and reach far, far greater numbers of people for two reasons. The health of our planet is deteriorating rapidly. I mean, it's alarming. And even more than that, people are talking about overpopulation, but I'm not worried about overpopulation at all, because sperm count in men has been dropping dramatically for the last 50 years and is continuing to drop. And we will be at negative, not zero, negative population growth soon. And the only thing that can really help is macrobiotic. Recently I had a young couple that came to me for fertility. After working for several months, I got pregnant. A couple of weeks later, calls me up, has a question. He said, "Oh, we got the shot yesterday. Our obstetrician told us it was safe and to do it." My heart dropped, as I expected. Shortly after then, she miscarried. So at any rate, they asked me after, a period of time, do you think you get pregnant again? I said, really, I don't know in this case, but let's try. So after 6 months, successful pregnancy and childbirth. So the only thing that can really help this situation is macrobiotics, because they're blaming environmental chemicals and toxins, which is a big part, but food is the cause. And it's the same with health. Now, 1984, the same year at our Mid-Atlantic Summer Conference. So 3 months later, in June, Michio gave what I consider to be one of his most important and prophetic lectures, The Future of Humanity. And we can share it with you. It's on YouTube. And Michio's long-range predictions, as a friend said, when he makes them, he can pack your bags. They're that accurate. And he outlined everything that's happening up until today and how society would polarize and that we really had to choose whether we wanted to live as natural human beings or not. Right? We no longer have the luxury of time. This is the situation. We need enough people to make the choice to be natural human beings. That means eat natural food from Mother Nature, food that comes from the earth, and to be able to choose the health and lifestyle for ourselves and our families. This is really the situation. SHI. For years, people have been encouraging me or Susan and I to do a counselor training program. And sometime last year, I thought, okay, the time is right. And I got an idea how to do it. It's a unique program, never really done before. It'll have a section on how to deal with common cancers, how to set up and maintain a practice. I have like an excellent consultant. Plus, we received a legacy donation last year, $100,000, and we took $25,000 of that, which will be used to professionally video and edit this seminar. Because I don't know if we'll ever repeat it again, but I really want it available online and on site. So anyone who speaks English in the world can participate in this seminar. We've been looking for months and months for a suitable place, no luck. But it came to me, in order to do this program, we need a permanent location, because the technology now for online learning, my friend in Lisbon and his center, he has a setup and it's almost like you're in the classroom. The technology is amazing, but you can't just set it up and take it down. We need a place where it can be there so we can do it. Together with that, SHI exists physically in my house. Second floor, middle room, tiny office. Taran and I share. It's a little almost bumping elbows, which is great because it's close communication. But Taran's only one person, and we are maxed out, and he needs to be able to bring in interns or volunteers so we can expand our capability. So this is, my reflections or wish list, or what we really need from this point to move forward. And if this message resonates with you, please take it to heart. Please share it with anyone who might be able to help us attain these goals. I think we've had our 20th anniversary this year. I think it's amazing. We've survived 20 years, quite frankly. We had a number of rough periods where I really wasn't sure. And I noticed about Michio over the years, he always had a way of, bringing the rabbit out of the hat at the last moment and just saving things. And same thing seems to have happened with SHI, but I don't want to, test my luck. And we need to grow. We've reached that point. After 20 years, next 20 years needs to be a growth period. So Please share this message, and if anyone can help us achieve this, we would greatly appreciate it. Then tonight's topic, time-restricted eating for optimal health. George Osawa said quantity and quality change everything, which are completely true. And you probably know in Okinawa, they're famous for their saying hara achibune, which means hara, belly, 80%, only eat to 80% fullness, which they say is one of their secrets of longevity. Most people, of course, overeat and would do well to eat less. However, within macrobiotics, people have taken to the opposite extreme and not eaten enough. Each one of us has to find the right quantity we need to nourish our health and life. This is our challenge. So what we've done at SHI is try to create the clearest guidelines possible to do this. And the most concise way to get this, wrote myself, is our book, because it's a handbook, it's a roadmap to health. And it can help you find, number one important is, how much food do you really need? When you get to the right amount that nourishes your physical, mental, spiritual energy, and you can live your life fully, then you've got it. But if you take it to the extreme, because there was a big push for many years, clean and simple, clean and simple. And I've talked many times about why I don't agree with clean and simple anymore. It's a different area. And I was going to talk about electromagnetic fields, which I'll talk on the next one for sure. So I talk about my reflections instead. So the first thing, we need to find out how much food we really need. Second is quality, organic versus non-organic. To be healthy, you don't need to have 100% organic food. Variety is more important. So some of the most important foods, if you can't get them organically grown, I would get commercial ones. Now, many people are familiar with the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, and they publish a dirty dozen and a clean 15. So vegetables they recommend only organic, and others you can, choose commercially. And I think the whole list is 45, and they're all rated in order. But in talking with Colin Campbell, now, I don't know if I agree with 100%, but he's the scientist. And he said we don't have to worry about toxification in food, because if we eat a very whole food plant-based diet, i.e. macrobiotics, our body is constantly detoxifying and neutralizing those chemicals. So, which makes certain sense, because again, back to the infertility thing. We're all exposed to microplastics. We're all exposed to BPA. We're all exposed to EMFs. We're all exposed to glyphosate. Yet, macrobiotic people still, get pregnant and have healthy pregnancies and healthy kids. So still the controlling factor is your overall diet. But one other thing we need to be careful of, especially careful, is highly processed foods. Highly processed foods are taking over. And I've mentioned it many times before, but I need to emphasize it. Highly processed oils, commercial oils, have moved pretty much to the top of my list of absolute worst harmful foods. Other than organic unrefined sesame oil and organic extra virgin olive oil, or at least high quality of both of those, I wouldn't eat any other oil. And I'm very liberal. And so that's saying something. But then we have another balance with quality, and that's between simple and elaborate. So there's two basic styles of macrobiotic cooking. One I call simple. It's our style. It's, Susan's expertise, how to bring the real taste out of the most simple ingredients through combinations and cooking styles, cutting, and everything else. And this is our style. It's not that we don't use oil or herbs or, anything like that. Yeah, of course we do. But the uniqueness is to make each food to bring out its real nature, its taste, its texture, its consistency. That means it's maximizing its healthfulness, its nourishment, in every sense. The other style is elaborate, where people use a lot of oil, a lot of seasoning spices, use, fake meats and everything else. It's a much more elaborate, where the taste comes on the surface from what you add to it. This real style of macrobiotic cooking is the simple style, learning how to bring the real taste. So George Osawa fashioned macrobiotics after Shojin Ryori, Japanese temple cooking. And the word they used in Japan to describe that was sapari. Sapari has two images. One, after you take a bath in Japan, you wash yourself, you get in hot water, you rinse off, dry yourself with a damp cloth, that clean feeling. The second is the twisting of a rope. There's no excess. Right? That's the other style. Low-class cooking is called aburapoi, oily. In other words, the taste is on the surface. You taste the oil, the sugar, the soy sauce. So if you really want health, master the art of simple cooking, right? Recipes in our book are, I think, an example of that. Now, so quality and quantity set the stage. Now, interestingly enough, there's been a lot of information coming out about intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating. Some I agree with, some I don't. One of the main reasons I don't agree with them completely is because if you're practicing macrobiotics, you're practicing a low-calorie, low-fat diet. If you're following paleo, like many of these people who are recommending it do, then you have a high-protein, high-fat diet. I mean, I have paleo friends. I watch what they eat. The amount of meat and fat is astounding. I mean, it's staggering. I mean, it's, for me, it's beyond interesting or appetizing if I like to eat meat. But all right, so I can understand if you're eating a diet heavy in animal food and dairy food, and excessive things, to limit your eating to 6 to 8 hours a day has a huge benefit. However, there's two aspects, and we have to make a balance. First is calorie restriction. Then the second is time restriction. So macrobiotics by nature is a calorie restricted diet. As elaborate as you make it, it's low calorie, it's low fat, right? Now, the thing is, calorie restriction increases longevity up to 65. After 65, we need more nourishment, especially more protein. I remember when Michio's father came to visit. I was there for quite a while. And they made special food for him, and it was much richer, much more oily, more protein, all these things. And I said, Michio, you know what? He said, well, when you're older, you need that. And it's always been in the back of my mind. And an MD friend of mine said, told me to figure about 65. So we need to emphasize protein, and plant protein's fine. Beans, tofu, tempeh, seitan, steamed bread, tahini, peanut butter. It's all good protein. So because again, if you eat too simply, so not only enough quantity, if you eat too simply for too long, you develop not malnutrition, but a kind of slight undernutrition, which leads to stagnation, which leads to acidity, which leads to health problems over time. So although simple is good, too simple is not good. We need to vary. And all traditional people had holidays and festivals. And holidays and festivals, they went all out, for days or longer of eating very rich, elaborate foods that weren't eaten all the time. And this was actually a good thing. But we can't really compare ourselves to traditional people because they lived half their life outside, were very physically active, contact with nature, didn't have computers that weren't sitting on their butt all day. So people say, well, this was done traditionally. I have to shrug my shoulders or roll my eyes. Okay, that's nice, and I believe that, but we are not traditional people in any way. Your traditional people were doing Zoom conferences. I'm grateful for Zoom because at least we can contact each other, but you get the point. So then we have our day-night cycle, which is very important. So it's essentially how it works. During the day, we eat food. We're active, and we use that food for physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy for activity. During the night, we utilize that food for repair, maintenance, and growth if we're still growing. Our body does its, maintenance, repair, and cleaning routines at night. Now, the thing about that, the celestial world is our guidebook. Right? Stars, constellations, planets. Problem is, you can't see them anymore. You can't see them almost anywhere. You got to go up to the remote mountains. Part is ambient light from the cities, but part is, is chemtrails, is spraying the atmosphere, trying to, cool things down or block the sun. So, which takes me to the next point. So at night, what happens when we sleep? Or what is sleep? Two things happen when we sleep. Number one, as I mentioned, we go through the cleaning and repair and maintenance cycles for our body. The second thing that happens during the night is we recharge our blood, our organs, our brain, and our nervous system. Like you got to plug in your cell phone at night and recharge it. We need to recharge our body every night. That's the power of sleep. Now, for many years, so George Osawa said 4 to 6 hours. I thought that's too severe. Since I'm a bit lazy, I made it 5 to 7. Now they're saying the ideal is 6 to 8. And more than 8 is actually harmful. So it's which I agree with. It's like overeating. So the question is, how much do we really need to sleep? For most of us, 6 to 8 hours, probably 7 or 8 hours for most people, unless you live in an environment that's free of EMFs, where you can actually see stars at nights, where you can see the sky. Because when we're receiving the charge actively from the celestial world, our bodies are much more efficient at doing the things that we just mentioned. Now, the most important time to be asleep is between midnight and 4 a.m. That's the most healing, valuable sleep. If it takes 1 to 2 hours to get into deep sleep, that means we should be in bed ideally by 10, at least by 11. If health is concerned, definitely be in bed before midnight. And I would make 11 o'clock a goal. Then the rising time is 5 to 7 a.m. It's very important to be up no later than 7 because we have the greatest ability to eliminate, to detoxify, to get rid of everything we've gathered during the night early in the morning. After 7 o'clock, that ability really slows down. So if you sleep to 7:38, 8:30, you've kind of missed the boat. So first thing, we need to set our day-night schedule. Up no later than 7, in bed before midnight, hopefully by 11. And if health is really a concern, get in bed by 10. Or make 10 your goal, then you'll be there by 11. That works. Then meal times. Breakfast, 5:30 to 8:30, or 5 to 8:30. So the point I'm trying to make for breakfast After 8:30, it changes. So, for many years, Michio said, healthy food needs to end by 8 o'clock. So I say the range for starting dinner is 5 to 7, then you can safely finish by 8. Because the later you eat, the slower your digestion. So many old people in the past had to eat at 5 o'clock. That was it. That's when you have the most active digestion. 6 is slower, 7 is slower. After that, it's very slow. I didn't think much about breakfast, but over the last year or two, I realized for breakfast, the same thing. Healthy breakfast needs to be started no later than 8:30. And if you can't start by 8:30, go to lunch. The range is 11 to 1. And as I've said many times, lunch is the one meal you don't want to skip. Now, back to time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting. I think for macrobiotic people, the ideal is skip breakfast 2 or 3 times a week. Start out twice a week. And then if you're comfortable, go to 3 times. So if you follow the guidelines we've already talked about, you're restricting your eating to 12 hours. 12 hours is the maximum amount of time for health. The average, I believe, in America is about 14 hours. We can't be healthy if we eat more than 12 hours. If you skip breakfast 2 or 3 times a week, then you're limiting it to 8 hours, 2 or 3 times a week, which is enough because our diet's already simple, right? Too much of a good thing's not good anymore. It's enough. Now, some people just don't like to eat breakfast, and that's okay. If you've been doing that, have an elaborate lunch or dinner. So it's hard to say which is more important, calorie restriction or time restriction. I think they interact with each other, and you want to try to get the balance between the two. And then remember, after 65, you really need to emphasize more protein and make sure you're using oil in food preparation regularly. And the one other thing, everyone needs more liquid now than in the past. So it was encouraged, only drink if you're thirsty. I don't agree. If you're thirsty a lot, satisfy your thirst, but if you're not thirsty, still drink a couple glasses of water a day. Right? You're probably better off drinking a little bit more than you think you need than a little bit less. Because all the things we mentioned, the environmental chemicals and EMFs are dehydrating. It's a huge problem with people's health. So I think that's pretty much anything I forgot about this. No, I think that's it. If you follow those guidelines, see what's unique about macrobiotics is that how we eat is just as important as what we eat. So if you follow these guidelines, it helps you make healthier food choices and it compensates for mistakes. Right? You're aligning with nature, working with nature. So I'm happy for questions, if you have any.
All right, thank you so much, Denny. So at this time, we will be moving into our formal Q&A segment. I will go over exactly how that's going to be handled. Before we move into that really quickly, as this is the last webinar, free webinar for the 2022 year, it being December, we will be looking to potentially change our schedule for the 2023 year. So we wanted to get everyone's input. So I'm just going to make a quick little poll that I'm throwing into the Zoom right now. Let us know whether this time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern, or we have 2 additional times that we're considering, 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, of course, if you're in a different time zone besides Eastern, I can't do the conversions right now for you. You'll have to do that. But let us know, and then we'll move on. So this poll is going to last for about a minute or so. And then we'll move into the Q&A. Actually, I can move into the Q&A right now. So if everyone, you could just take part in that poll, that would be great. So right now for the Q&A, you can either send questions directly to the chat where some people are typing right now. I would encourage you, if you can please engage in the poll, just because I may not be able to take the written responses, but I'll try my best. But you can send questions directly to the chat, or you can do what Michelle has already done. She's put her hand up. Or what I'm also going to allow is you can unmute yourself, and then I just wait. I just ask that you wait to be called upon, just so multiple people are not speaking over each other. So Michelle, I see you have your hand up. Feel free for your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tehran. Hi, Denny. Thank you for your awesome talk, as usual. You're a great teacher, yeah, and a mentor and a hero. My question is, salmon head. I cannot get wild salmon head here in Norwood, Massachusetts. Could I use a salmon head that is, not wild? What's your opinion?
No. Are you in Philly?
What's that?
Are you in Philly?
No, I'm in Massachusetts.
Oh, if you're in Philly, I can tell you where to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I don't think they would ship salmon heads to Massachusetts. New York, maybe, but.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All righty, thank you. So I'm just reading through some of the questions that we have here. Audrey, yes, sesame oil was the other oil that would have been mentioned by Denny. So olive oil as well as sesame oil. Let's see, our next question that we have here. For the best benefit, should the breakfast fasting be 2 to 3 days in a row?
No, I think it's better to spread it out, but it is okay. They both, I mean, if you do it in a row, it's more powerful. If you spread it out, it's more gentle. So again, you can experiment. Because as I said in the beginning, our challenge, each one of us needs to find what we really need as far as quantity, quality, choices. This is really the art of macrobiotics, learning what we need. So, I mean, that's a good experiment to do. And then you'll find out for yourself. Also about salmon, the only salmon that I know that is really wild is wild Alaskan salmon. I don't believe there's any other wild salmon, although a lot of restaurants are saying it. So.
All righty, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to try to go through these questions as much as I can. I'm going to ask if we could potentially hold the typing of them, just because I know we're going to be getting quite a few. Right now, we do have a good bit, and I want to make sure we can answer as many as we can. So let's see here. If one cannot eat soy, is eating beans twice a day a good idea? I eat nuts, seeds, and beans one time each day.
I mean, that's a good question. Variety is much more absorbable. I'm not sure why you're not able to eat soy, as in tofu or tempeh. Does that mean even miso? So I'm not sure if it's because of an allergy, then I would try to reintroduce it very, very slowly over time. But if you have beans twice a day, it should be, one main serving, then a very small. Too many beans are going to weaken your digestion and might cause other uncomfortable problems as well.
All right, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move along through the chat. And as a reminder, you are able to also ask questions verbally, though we do have quite a few, so I'll hold off on that. I'm going to wait till we get through a few of these here. But if someone does have a question, you can unmute yourself and I can also call upon you. So our next question that we have here, can soup be eaten between meals?
The interaction of dishes is very important. So I recommend a grain and separate vegetable dish with every meal because they enhance each other. Cooked brown rice with another grain, same reason, they enhance each other. The grain and vegetable and soup enhance each other. So you get far more value out of the soup if you have it as part of a meal. Plus, if it's miso soup or shoyu soup, fermentation needs to be part of a meal. So if you drink beer or wine, the best way is with a meal. miso soup with a meal. I guess you could have pureed sweet vegetable soup as a snack sometimes, but it's really the interaction. Same thing like miso on its own is not really very healthy. If you eat miso, you don't get healthy. But if you make miso soup, well, that's a different thing. Wakame seaweed, vegetables, simmered, that's uniquely healthy. It's the interaction.
All right, thank you. So our next question, and I apologize, right now what I'm going to have to do, because there's just so many questions, I'm going to restrict the chat right now. If we do have enough time, I will open up the chat for more questions, but there's just quite a few. So our next question is, what is happening in the age range of 65 plus that requires more protein and oil?
We get drier as we get older. We shrink. We get drier. So we start off very fresh and we dry out over time. We need to replace that freshness and that richness. And loss of muscle mass increases as we get older. So more protein is important for that. Very good. Yeah.
Gary, I will get, if you have a question, Gary, I will get to you. I'm just trying to see if I can navigate through some of these questions, but if you can leave yourself there, I won't forget you.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next question, what are some lesser known foods that accelerate tooth decay in addition to well-known foods like sugar and excess fruit?
Apple juice. For macrobiotic children, it's one of the biggest. Apple juice causes cavities in macrobiotic kids. Basically, if your condition is acidic, that means too young, like the early macros, including myself, had terrible teeth problems. Those were really widespread because of too much salt. Too much salt created stagnation, which created acidity, which demineralized the teeth. And teeth are kind of our peripheral defense. So the best thing besides good tooth care is to eat a very wide, varied diet the way we recommend. That's the most important thing, together with taking good care of your teeth regularly.
All righty, thank you. Thank you. And Denny, I don't know if this was already mentioned when brought up again, but what is the purpose of breakfast fasting?
Well, it enables our body to clean and repair, get rid of old waste more effectively, more efficiently. So we're trying to create the proper balance between what goes in and what goes out. In a modern diet, modern people, the problem is a lot's going in, but not much is coming out, as you can see. And even if they don't look like that, it's still the accumulation is enormous. Macrobiotics makes elimination very efficient. So we have to find the right balance. Eliminating too much, too actively is not good. So my experiences for myself and others, if you skip the breakfast 2 or 3 times a week, it really helps your body clean and renew. I've recommended to a lot of clients, and most of them say, wow, it made a big difference.
All right, thank you. Our next question, is it a good idea to use sleeping pills to regulate sleeping time?
No. Diet and activity regulate sleep. Number one is you have to look at your diet. Number two, you need more physical activity, more outdoor activity. You need to see natural light as early as possible in the morning and the sun when it's out. And at night, you need to avoid blue light. So get blue light blockers. And I'll talk about EMFs next time, but be very careful about computers, TVs, cell phones at night. And even, if you get up at night to urinate, don't turn the lights on, get a red night light. So you don't have to turn the lights on, red or orange. So it's not going to, have blue light in it, which to interfere with sleep. Yeah, by sleeping pills, you don't get real sleep anyway.
All righty, thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. All right, Denny, can you debunk the low blood sugar myth regarding smaller meals throughout the day? The idea is another one of those crazes. Well, I guess we can just start there. There you go.
Yeah. So if someone's blood sugar is severely low enough for a long time, actually it's helpful to have, frequent meals, 4 to 6 meals a day, till their blood sugar starts to stabilize, then follow our recommendations after that. And also they might need certain remedies to get, because blood sugar can be very, very stubborn. If you've gotten hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, that's continued for a long time, it's really low, it can be tricky and persistent. So the small meals for many people are actually helpful for a period of time. The best health comes, you eat, your digestive system expands. You have several hours of activity, it contracts. You eat again, expands, then it contracts. The problem with frequent meals, you don't get the contracting part. It's the same with, snacking. Some people snack every mid-morning and every mid-afternoon. You never get the contracting part. Now, it's okay until you stabilize your blood sugar, but after that, try to get to the point where you can eat 2 or 3 meals a day comfortably. If you can't, then you need to find the right balance between your diet and activity. Activity is the same. Too much or too little activity don't help.
All righty, thank you. Thank you. This question asks, which dishes, and I guess I'll start with this because I know, and Denny, if you want to elaborate on this. So the question was asked, which dishes would you use sesame oil in? I know the book that Denny referenced, The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity, has numerous recipes, which will include pairings of the proper oils. Denny, do you have anything else that you want to say?
Well, sesame oil is the driest oil and it's absorbed most deeply. So uniquely strengthening dishes like tempeh and quick sautés, where you're eating them for strength and nourishment, then sesame oil used at the beginning is advantageous. But if you're looking to lighten your condition and refresh it more, olive oil near the end, like what we call Mediterranean saute or in salad, is more advantageous. So it depends. If you're not sure, a combination of the two is really best. So olive oil is like the richest oil, the most luxurious. Sesame is the most simple. Too much sesame too long is very drying. But too much olive oil then has its other problems. So.
All right, thank you. I have a question here. So the question starts with saying, I find, and this part of this was already mentioned, but I may ask for clarification. I find that eating lunch and skipping breakfast works best for me. Is that okay? If it could be clarified, if you're just saying eating lunch and dinner, I don't know if you mean only eating lunch. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself.
Lunch and dinner, yes, just the two meals.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, for most people, I do not recommend one meal. I mean, we're not monks, but 2 meals. So either breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner. The biggest determining factor is breakfast makes you more practical and physically active. Skipping breakfast fosters creativity. So it depends on what you want. If you do physical work, or if your work is very practical, by all means, eat breakfast. It's better. Ben Franklin was a creative genius, but a practical creative genius. He said, for supper, little to none is best. He had a very good breakfast and a very good lunch and tried to eat as little as possible for the evening meal.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to try to get through some of these questions. I know we're running low on our time. Denny, can you just once again clarify? So when should people be done eating breakfast, and when should people be done eating dinner? Or if you can go over that again.
Yeah, done eating breakfast is not so important. It's starting by 8:30, no later than 8:30. Dinner, though, we want to finish eating by 8 o'clock. Now, if you have, a festive holiday meal, that might go on for a long time. You might not, but I'm talking about day to day. The later we eat, the slower our digestion. So 3 hours is not 3 hours. The other thing I find really interesting, I forgot to mention, there's more and more research about the importance of not eating for 3 hours before getting into bed. So all these things we've been recommending in macrobiotics forever are becoming scientifically validated over time. Interesting.
All righty, thank you. Thank you. Is there any use for salmon heads, such as being used in soups?
Well, salmon head is very strengthening and very nourishing. It's used for anemia and also for sexual vitality. And supposedly it makes you good at business. I should eat it more. But so you can cook it in soups or stews or grill it. When I lived in the UK, there was a Japanese restaurant, only one I've ever been to, and they had grilled salmon head. It's my favorite. And I ate it a few times. Then I started to have this same dream every night. Seeing moving, and shadows are moving, right, through the rippling shadows. And I realized I started to dream I was a salmon swimming upstream. So I figured, okay, I think I had enough salmon.
Alrighty, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to ask our last 3 questions just for sake of time. I know many people had way more questions. I had to close the chat down almost 10 minutes ago, so I apologize. It's we'll just have to save them for the next webinar, of course. So Gary, I know you've been waiting patiently. If you would like to pose your question, and then I'm going to ask a question that was posed by Alex about 15 minutes ago.
Yes, I was wondering which meal ideally should be the main meal of the day?
That's a very good question. Before the Industrial Revolution, the noon meal was the main meal.
Mhm.
And if your schedule allows, I would continue with that. If you can't because of work, well, then dinner still works health-wise. But to have a more elaborate, varied meal, midday, I think really works. And Susan and I have been together, so we've got a schedule. Then, lunch has been our most elaborate meal. And I really like that. I think that combination is really best. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, thank you, thank you. We have a question here. It starts off by saying, I work a physically laborious job making miso at South River. I feel like I need to eat more rich and elaborate foods to keep my strength up. Is it risky to eat oil with almost every meal? And how about eating eggs from our pasture-raised chickens several times per week? Thanks.
Now, for hard physical activity, you need oil. You need good quality protein. You need good quality oil. If you're really physically active, and eating some, pastured eggs, I would say a few rather than several is probably safer. I would err on the relaxed side, but Japanese monks who were very, very physically active, gruelingly active, used fu and seitan, wheat gluten products, to create their great strength and vitality. And many of them were warring monks. They were warriors as well, so they're pretty fierce. So that's what I would look into, using fu and seitan and tempeh. Also, for hard physical work, boiling miso is good. So I know they say don't boil miso, but for warmth in the winter and for strength and vitality, boiled miso is good. Needs oil in it.
Alrighty, just trying to get this one question here from the chat. Bear with me on Facebook. I think we just have one question here. Oh, okay. So it looks like it says, one second, I'm gonna try to pull it up here instead on my screen. My computer was freezing. Okay, is cold pressed rapeseed oil acceptable?
I don't really know. I've heard so many different things about that. What I can say for sure, the two most traditional oils on the planet in recent history, both with a 6,000-year history, and the only two that can be pressed with an auger press, no heat, no solvents, no nothing, are sesame and olive. So I think the safest is to stick to those. We don't recommend frying anymore, but high heat safflower or sunflower oil if you want to fry, which don't really recommend. You know, we had our first nabe in a while, and we used to have fried tofu in it all the time, which were my favorite parts. And this time there was no fried tofu. And you know what? I enjoyed it so much better without the fried tofu than with it. So when you get away from frying things, you actually feel more satisfied. At least that's my experience.
All righty, thank you, thank you. So that will be the conclusion of our formal Q&A segment. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go into the close for this presentation. I'm just going to share my screen once again, and then everyone will have the opportunity to give their thanks and appreciations for Denny. Right after that, I just want to share some quick updates so everyone knows what's up with SHI over the next few months and going into the 2023 year. Denny, if you can just let me know when you can see my screen, because I'm getting some really bad lag right now.
It's loading. Okay, I can see it. I can see the disclaimer.
Okay, good. So just going through this disclaimer again, as I already mentioned a little bit earlier, just once again, this information is just for your educational purposes only. It does not serve as any medical or consultation advice specifically. I'm still looking to that outside of this seminar. A lot of you I know are going to want to be able to catch up, rewatch, and you know, maybe if you missed a little bit in the beginning of this, the recording is already available now if you follow Denny on Facebook, his professional account, not his personal account. So if you go to his professional account, which is still Denny Waxman, you'll be able to find the webinar instantly in case you want to watch it now or share it with someone tonight. Otherwise, I will be sharing that recording. I would like to try within the next 24 hours tomorrow, but at the latest, sometime Friday morning. So keep a lookout for that because I always get emails and phone calls. It will be coming in an email. If you don't see it, that just means that there's some technical difficulties or something like that holding it up. Also, too, we just advise to stay connected. Of course, you can find Denny, SHI, you know, Susan on, you know, YouTube. You know, there's a Twitter account, Facebook account, as I mentioned, as well as Instagram, which all of those will be included in the email that I send out with the recording within the next 24 to 48 hours. Some upcoming things as well, too. Of course, we have our newsletters. Both Denny and SHI have those newsletters. If you're not already subscribed, you have the opportunity to be able to do that on each of those websites. Our next upcoming event, so Denny, of course, had his webinar tonight. Susan will be having a cooking class next Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's going to be a two-hour cooking class about festive holiday dishes. So a lot of people are super, super excited about that. And I know Susan is very excited about this as well, too, being the first cooking class of this type in probably a very, very long time, if not one of the first. And one of the first online cooking classes that we've done outside of our conferences in its entirety. So if you're interested in that, that can be found on our SHI website under the cooking class tab, so you can register for that. It has a rolling payment scale so that people of all sorts can be able to take part in this. And there will be a link to register to that in the email that I send out with the recording of this within the next 24 to 48 hours. You can see there are some of the dishes that Susan is going to be preparing listed on there. As I mentioned, all that information will be in the email that I send as well, too. We also have a macrobiotic support group that's associated with SHI, a little bit different from the one that Susan used to hold about a year plus ago, but it's still a group that meets every Wednesday, except for when we have these free webinars. But it's run participant led. So other individuals that are on this call, facilitate it, tips, tricks, recipes, and support are typically held, as I mentioned, every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. I will be including a link in that email as well that I'll be sending with the recording if you're interested. Next, month, we'll of course be having another free webinar. And, I did that poll a little bit earlier as far as the actual time. So it will be Wednesday, January 18th. The time may still be pending. Actually, it seems like most people really do love this 7 p.m. Eastern time. It was about 80% of people as I close it out that voted for this time. So me and Denny and Susan will be talking about it again. But more than likely, probably, I guess, will be at the 7 p.m. time. But it's going to be about renewing your practice as it's going to be the new year, rebalancing, getting back into the swing of things, starting from scratch, so to speak. So, of course, I'll have a link for that webinar for you to be able to register when I send the email with the recording within the next 24 to 48 hours. Save the date. A lot of you who are on this call have taken part in a lot of our conferences, whether it's the fall, spring, and summer conferences. So this is actually our second spring conference. We didn't have one earlier this year. So this is the second one that we are having since we started doing them. We have a great lineup of individuals that we're currently getting up and running for this particular conference. So it's going to be an amazing experience, just as for our previous ones. And it's going to be all about renewal as well, too. Renewal and rebirth of health and wellness and things of that nature. But more details to come, March 18th to the 19th, 2023. So save the date. And we're coming in for a landing. We have a lot of different courses at the beginner level to the advanced level, in case you're interested in learning more about how you can potentially help others with macrobiotics, or maybe even become a counselor, a cook, or a teacher like Denny and Susan. Reach out to us or take a look at our website where you can find that information. And of course, share the free resources that we have. These webinars are free. As I mentioned, they're going to be on our website. They'll be on Facebook. They're going to be on YouTube. Share links with individuals. Let them know about this amazing content. Share recipes. Denny opened up with the Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity. Share that book and its contents as well, too. And I know Denny opened up the call with a really great appeal about the amount of support that we're looking to have, of course, because of course being able to provide this content is not without we really sort of rely on the support of a lot of the individuals on this call, as well as our donors that we receive a lot of great contributions from on an annual basis. But of course, the support is not just monetary, as we were mentioning, even if it's as so much as letting us know of a location that may be, if you know of in the Philadelphia area, that may be usable for these courses that we are, really strongly trying to present within the next year or two, or if you know a connection, or someone who can really help to spearhead some of this information, all of that support is very valuable. So in addition to, of course, monetary contributions, which we so direly need as well too, any information that you can spread in the form of an email or a phone call to just, let us know how we can, help to provide more education to individuals to spread macrobiotics. So at this time, for any individuals who want to just give their appreciations and their thank yous to Denny for this webinar, feel free. You can unmute yourself. You can send it in the chat. We do really thank you for supporting and being a part of this webinar for tonight.
Thank you, Denny.
Thanks, Denny.
Thank you all. My
Denny,
pleasure.
you're
Thanks, Denny.
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miss
Thank you. Good to see
Thank
everyone.
you.
Happy holidays. Merry
Thank
Christmas.
Happy holidays. Yeah.
Denny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
Yes.
Thank you, Denny.
Hanukkah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Everyone,
Thanks,
have a great
Teron.
holiday.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Hopefully I'll see some of you next Wednesday. And for those I don't see next Wednesday, we'll see you next month in January for the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And you're
Tron.
gonna send a link for next Wednesday?
Yes, there will be a link for you to be able to, if you're already registered, I will be sending out a link for that with the link. I'll be sending out an email with that link very soon. If you have not registered, there will be a link to register with the recording in the next 24 to 48 hours. But it is on our website in case you want to, look at that right now under cooking classes on the SHI website. But I will be sending out a link for that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tron. You're fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, everyone. Have a good
Ciao,
night.
ciao.
Well, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Teron.
Bye.
See you
Bye.
soon. Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Danny.
Okay.